In the early 16th century, when the world's oceans became highways of empire and ambition, a small island in the Arabian Gulf suddenly found itself at the center of a global power struggle. This was not Europe, nor India, nor Africa, but Bahrain, a pearl-rich archipelago whose fate would be reshaped by cannons, caravels, and conquest. By 1521, the Portuguese Empire, operating from its powerful base in Goa, had already carved a maritime empire stretching from East Africa to Southeast Asia. Under commanders inspired by pioneers like Afonso de Albuquerque, Portugal sought to dominate the lucrative trade routes of the Indian Ocean. Their strategy was simple but ruthless. Control the choke points, build fortresses, and tax every ship that passed. Bahrain was too valuable to ignore. For centuries, it had been famous for its natural pearls considered among the finest in the world. Its location in the Gulf placed it along the maritime corridor linking Mesopotamia, Persia, India, and Arabia. Whoever controlled Bahrain could influence regional trade and project naval power deep into Gulf waters. At the time, Bahrain was under the rule of the Jabrid dynasty, local Arab rulers who struggled to resist growing Portuguese pressure. In 1521, a Portuguese fleet sailed into the Gulf. Armed with heavy artillery and naval discipline unfamiliar to most regional forces, they attacked Bahrain. The campaign was swift and decisive. The island fell, and Portuguese authority was imposed. The occupation was not merely symbolic. The Portuguese began constructing fortifications to secure their hold over the archipelago. One of the most important remnants of this period is the imposing Qal'at al-Bahrain, a site that reveals layers of civilizations, including the Portuguese presence. From these fortified positions, Portugal aimed to control shipping and collect duties, integrating Bahrain into its broader imperial network. But Portuguese control was never entirely secure. The Gulf was not an empty sea waiting for European dominance. Powerful regional actors watched closely, most notably the rising Safavid Empire of Persia. Under the ambitious rule of Shah Abbas I, Persia sought to restore control over key Gulf territories and expel foreign powers threatening its economic interests. Meanwhile, the Portuguese faced increasing strain across their empire. Maintaining distant garrisons required constant naval support, and local resentment simmered in Bahrain. Heavy taxation and foreign rule created tension among the island's inhabitants, who had little reason to welcome distant European overlords. By the late 16th century, the balance of power began to shift. The Safavid state reorganized its military, modernized its forces, and prepared to challenge Portuguese positions in the Gulf. In 1602, Persian forces, supported by local uprisings, launched a decisive campaign against the Portuguese in Bahrain. The occupation, which had lasted more than 80 years, came to an end. The Portuguese were expelled, and Bahrain was incorporated into Safavid Persia's sphere of control. The fall of Portuguese Bahrain marked more than a local political change. It symbolized the limits of early European naval empires when confronted by resilient regional powers. While Portugal retained influence in parts of the Indian Ocean, its dominance in the Gulf weakened significantly. Yet the echoes of that era remain. The stones of Qal'at al-Bahrain still overlook the waters where Portuguese caravels once anchored. The story of the occupation is a reminder that globalization is not a modern invention. 5 centuries ago, Bahrain stood at the crossroads of continents, where European naval ambition collided with Persian revival and Arab resilience. In the grand narrative of world history, the Portuguese occupation of Bahrain reveals a dramatic chapter where cannons thundered over pearl fisheries, where empires clashed over trade winds, and where a small island became a battleground in the first age of global maritime power.